Hey everybody, Danny Davis here with the Austin American-Statesman, this year Longhorn Confidential for Tuesday, February 3rd. I'm joined today by Longhorn Confidential veteran Cedric Golden and Longhorn Confidential newcomer Zoe Collins Rath. Zoe is a digital sports producer for us, but most importantly, she has jumped up, stepped up, and she is working the Texas women's basketball beat. I don't know if I'm the Madison Booker to her Rory Harmon or vice versa, but we've been getting it done all season long over on statesman.com. So be sure to check out our work. But we're going to talk Texas women's basketball today. Texas is currently 21-2. They are ranked fourth by both the AP and the coaches. They are 6-2 in the SEC, and they got a somewhat big game against LSU coming up here on Thursday. But we're going to start off kind of looking back at the season that has been 23 games in so far. We're going to exclude Madison Booker. We're going to exclude Rory Harmon from this question because obviously those two are playing like All-Americans. But Zoe, we'll let you go first. Newcomers up first. Who is your Texas MVP if we're excluding Madison and Rory from this conversation so far this season?
Well, I have to show some love to my bigs because that was my position in basketball when I started. I had to show some love to Kyla Oldacre. I think she has the potential to be a star, but she's really comfortable coming off the bench, and she's been putting up big minutes. She had 16 rebounds in the first game against LSU, and she has had a very hard job of guarding players like Radian Beers, Lauren Betts, and she's done it so well and just limiting any sort of damage that they can do on the basketball court. And she is such a stoic player, and she just does the dirty work. And a lot of times that is often ignored by flashy players like Madison and Rory, but she goes to work down there, and she's very underrated and underappreciated.
Have you been watching the women's game either in person or from the nice golden living room? Who kind of stands out to you aside from obviously Madison and Rory?
I gotta agree with Z. Kyla Oldacre. Let me tell you something. We talked about it at the game the other day. She does the dirty work. They don't really run plays for her, but the one thing that we know about big time college basketball is sooner or later a team's going to test you. And Texas is more of a guard oriented team this year with, and I count Madison as a guard, even though she's listed as a forward. She's a swing player. She plays both. There's going to come a time when you're going to need some big burly, tough baskets inside, some tough rebounds, somebody getting put on their butt that dares come into that lane to try to test Kyla Oldacre, and Kyla Oldacre is up to the challenge. And she is not about the games. She's a tough-minded, quiet, goes about her business. She is essential in what this team is trying to do. Now, Madison and Rory and Jordan Lee and Aaliyah Crump are going to get the headlines, but you cannot overstate the importance of having a physical presence in that paint. And when it gets down to it, and when it comes down to these tough games, like LSU, they're gonna pound it inside, and they're gonna get Kyla Oldacre going because guards can't just do it by themselves. You got to have a big that's willing to do it. And so we know she's a good athlete. We saw her go coast to coast last year in the tournament with that and one. The place went nuts. And I think that she might be the most unappreciated big girl in the country because she has enormous ability, but she's on the team where the guards are dominating the ball.
My pick would have been a complete slam dunk maybe about a month ago, but I'm going to go with Jordan Lee. And now,
not anymore, Daniel. No, Daniel.
Hold on. No, she has really struggled offensively the past few weeks, and her game has really, kind of fallen off of that end. But she's still Texas's second leading scorer on offense. Arguably, she's still their best at three-point threat, although Leah Crump has played really well since her return from her foot injury. But college basketball is still kind of a guard-dominated sport, and Jordan has picked up her game incredibly defensively. Rory Harmon is the leader of that Texas defense, but Jordan has been tasked with doing a lot of perimeter defending. Sometimes when, Rory's getting a little tired or they don't want to be having her play 40 minutes, they'll stick Jordan on, the opposing team's best guard. And Jordan's still playing, unless she just, a couple of these, she's had to sit a couple times in the last week or two because she's just been really cold offensively, but she's still getting, some 40-minute games and a lot of time. So I just think with the way that she's playing defensively and what we know she can do offensively, I think those things two combined kind of leave her in that conversation. Now she needs to find her shot. And that would really help this Texas team, especially with the way Aaliyah Crump is playing, give them another offensive weapon. But for a team that lost Shea Holly, and there were some questions about who would be, good on the perimeter with their defense since Aaliyah Crump is a freshman and is still learning. Madison stepped up her game defensively, and so is Jordan Lee, and I think that's really important for this team. But and also shout out Justice Carlton, who I think is very underappreciated on this.
She's been really good lately, Daniel. She's been playing well.
She has.
Vic's always on her about her defense. She's getting her hands on some deflections. She's obviously in better game shape than she was last year, 16-8. And she's a load when she decides to go to the bucket. There aren't too many women in the game that can match up to her physically with the strength on the box. I like when they run plays for her inside.
I do too.
Like you mentioned, Texas is 21-2, so that means they are not flawless. They can be beat, as we found out against LSU and South Carolina. As we look at this team, not only those two losses, but some of their other games this season, what is one thing that kind of stands out about this team that kind of concerns you that maybe, I know what one of the answers is going to be, and I'm sure Vic Schaefer is at home watching, waiting for which one he's all going to say it. But what is something that concerns you about this Texas team? Sedville, we'll start with you.
It doesn't concern me as much as it did because Aaliyah Crump can't shoot the basketball. And she's fearless. She's a fearless freshman. Those are the best kind of freshmen. They're not a good three-point shooting ball club. Madison Booker's the best. She is this generation. She's the women's version of Kevin Durant in this program. She is a sweet shooting mid-range assassin. And she can make it happen inside that arc. But she's not comfortable shooting threes. Jordan Lee gave us a lot of hope after knocking down those threes against South Carolina in the Final Four. But she's been on a cooler for the last few games. They're one of the worst three-point shooting teams in the country. And that might get them beat down the line. They're going to run into a team that's got two or three sharpshooters that might, those twos that Texas is getting. You make 10 twos and the other team makes 13 threes, you're going to get beat by double digits. That's just how that is. So the hope is that Aaliyah Crump continues to make them and that Jordan Lee figures it out from three because that's it. That's it. He talks about Sarah Graves. He ain't playing Sarah Graves. Sarah Graves not playing that much because she's not a great defender. So he's got to get it from Jordan Lee and Aaliyah Crump. Those are his two biggest hopes. But that is easily, for me, the biggest concern is three-point shooting.
The 3-point, maybe I've been just listening to Vic way too much, but the 3-point shooting doesn't concern me as much, in part because Texas doesn't allow a lot of three-pointers. I think because the perimeter defending we talked about earlier, I think UCLA is the only decent team that has gotten more than 5 3-pointers against them. Texas has allowed 8 more 3-pointers than they made. So they're just not allowing. We could say hypothetically one team will get hot, but what if one team doesn't? What if Texas just continues to play? Oklahoma's a very good 3-point shooting team, and we saw what happened with this past weekend. So that doesn't worry me as much as because of how good defensively Texas is, a good guardian 3-pointers. I'm more concerned with Texas, how Texas has been kind of playing in the fourth quarter recently. If you kind of throw out the Auburn game and the A&M game, because those were just blowouts against really bad teams, I think 3 of the last 5 SEC games, Texas has been outscored in the fourth quarter. It hurt them against South Carolina. It almost killed them against Ole Miss. That Oklahoma game was closer than it needed to be because of how Texas played a part after they took that 21-point lead in the second quarter. So if you mess around in the NCAA tournament, you're going to get beat. If you mess around against South Carolina in the SEC tournament, you're going to get beat. So Texas has to do a better job of closing the games, and that's partially on the players, that's partially on Vic. But that's been one thing that's kind of stood out to me aside from the 3-point shooting. Zoe, what's one thing that's kind of stood out to you?
Mentioned this on Sunday about the need to finish. Whether it was having a sharper pass, whether it was not letting get beat on defense, because Peyton Verhulst just let it fly from half court and it just went in beautifully. And, I forgot who it was that signed up on Mandina Okot in the South Carolina game in Columbia, and she just drained a 3-pointer. And those are the type of small mental lapses that will get you beat, because those little things can add up in a game. And if they add up a little bit too much, that is how you lose. And it's about to be crunch time. So it's more imperative that Texas focuses on the little things, just like making sure the passes are sharper, being more selective with their shots that they're taking, not rushing on offense that, can lead to turnovers and a lot of sloppy plays that Texas doesn't need. They are a really good team when they are consistent and when they are on 100% of the time. And I think it's clear over the course of a couple of quarters. They can start off great in the first quarter, back off a little bit in second and the third, start strong in the fourth, but then maybe fade away in the fourth. You can't do that when these games are starting to matter, especially when it comes to tournament time. And Texas has a couple of hard road games ahead, and in the tournament when it's one and done.
We talked about tough games coming up for Texas. That starts Thursday against LSU. That's an 8 p.m. start, so drink your coffee over at Moody Center. That'll be on ESPN if you don't want to go down and actually want to watch that from the comforts of your couch or bed. But after that, 3 straight road games, and then they close out the regular season before heading to the SEC tournament. So 7 games after LSU. When we look at those 7 games post LSU and Kim coming to town, said, what's like one game that kind of sticks out to you? Which game should Texas be most concerned with after LSU?
Correct me if I'm wrong, Daniel, but they're at Vanderbilt February 12th. That's Michaela Blake's. I mean, that's Michaela Blake's. They have a talented freshman, Aubrey Galvan. That game could be a beehive for Texas. And Texas sometimes goes in sleepy a little bit in these road games. You won't have to motivate them. You won't have to motivate Rory Harmon, who will probably take on that assignment of a much more balanced, much more complete offensive player than the young Aaliyah Chavez, who's going to be great. She's going to be great. But Rory Rory could tell you the flavor of toothpaste that she used that morning, because Rory was in her mug. So that's a tough road trip after a couple of tough games. This tough game coming up. So that game, anytime in the SEC on the road, and Vandy's been a little up and down, but you got a player that can score 40 at any given notice, and then you've got a chance to spring an upset. And I know Vandy, after having a little bit of struggle here lately, has that game circled on their calendar.
Yeah, and there's one specific Commodore who I know has that game circled on her calendar. I'm sure Jock will be very happy.
Don't play the Jock bomb, Jockalinga. We love Jock. Daniel, tell him we love Jock. We love Jock.
I had to find a new bandwagon to drive once Jock left town. Zoe, which game are you circling on your calendar? Which game do you think Texas should be concerned about?
I think Vanderbilt is a fairly easy answer. I think Tennessee, I kind of take my tune on Tennessee because I think of some of the locker room drama that's going on, but I think Kentucky could be interesting. I think with Claire Strack is one of the more dynamic centers that Texas has gone up against. And if I may read a few statistics, Strack is 12th in the SEC in field goal shooting. Madison Booker is 6th. She is in a 3-way tie for 13th place in the NCAA in double doubles. And she shoots 23.2% from 3, not to mention, and Kentucky has 2 players in the top 10 for 3-point shooting in the conference. I think Kentucky is going to be a very well-rounded team. Kenny Brooks is a very good coach. And I think they could go in and underestimate Kentucky a little bit, because I think Strack is going to just go to work. She's quicker than I think a lot of people think she is, and they can shoot. So watch out for Kentucky.
I like it.
Tennessee. I think that Tennessee's team is weird. They have some bad losses. They just got, the kicked out of them by UConn a couple of days ago. Kim Caldwell does some weird things with her rotations, as we've seen in years past. But this is also a Tennessee team that played Texas very tight twice last year. And Sed and I were both in Birmingham last year and had to watch, two freshmen rescue that Texas team and rescue their season when Breonna Preston and Jordan Lee came off the bench and had two fantastic games. So this is a Tennessee team that, for whatever, styles make, fights or whatever that saying is, that plays Texas pretty tough. And this game is going to be in Knoxville. UT is a very long-standing rivalry for fans of women's college basketball, and so that's a game that I could see, just because of how Tennessee plays, is kind of be in trouble for this Texas team. And it's also at the end of a very long stretch of 5 straight games against ranked teams. So in Texas will play Monday, Thursday, and Sunday that week. So we'll see. They could just be tired too. So I have the Tennessee game circled as a game of concern for me, but obviously, you can't overlook a Kentucky, you can't overlook a Vanderbilt, and you can't overlook a Tennessee. So Vic and company, they have 5 straight games against some tough teams, starting with this past Sunday's win over Oklahoma and LSU this Thursday. But that's going to do it for us. We're going to wrap it up here. We're going to be in and out with these Longhorn Confidentials over the next couple weeks, talking some baseball, talking some men's basketball, talking some football if we get a chance. But we appreciate y'all watching us on YouTube. Check us on the statesman.com, where you'll find all of our work. Check back YouTube on Thursday. Sed and Kirk will be chatting up with Jim Schlossnagel, getting everyone prepared for the baseball season, which starts next Friday against UC Davis. But yeah, that's going to do it for us. We appreciate y'all tuning in, and we'll see you down the road. Deuces.